मतलब बीच बीच में लगता है कि क्या कर रहे हैं, आई हैव एवरीथिंग, व्हाई एम आई डूइंग दिस, सो दैट फियर इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द जर्नी. आई वुड स्विच ऑफ फ्रॉम द यूपीएससी वर्ल्ड, नॉट इवन कंसिडर कमिंग टू दिल्ली. उन्होंने भी उतना ही पढ़ा है जितना सबने पढ़ा है. देयर इज अ ह्यूज लक फैक्टर इन्वॉल्वड एंड द बोर्ड लाफ्ड एट दिस. दैट नेम इज देयर फाइनली.
Hello everyone, today we have with us Madhav Bhardwaj, who has secured All India rank 536 in UPSC Civil Service Examination 2022. And he has done his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and he has also worked in Microsoft. So welcome Madhav.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the warm welcome.
So the first question would be, and which is very logical. So you have done your MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and then आपने जो है Microsoft में work किया. So while working in a very good position in corporate sector, what made you think about civil services? कि कैसे आपने सोचा कि civil services में हमें switch करना चाहिए?
So I belong to Missouri and my father used to work at Labasna. So this idea was always in my head कि civil services करना है. However, I was a little pragmatic also in life because this exam is a little tough and there's a good chance that you may not be able to crack it. तो फिर मैंने सोचा कि थोड़ा पहले मैंने करियर बनाने की कोशिश करी. And once that was done, and when I was back home and I started working with Microsoft, work from home, COVID, a number of factors aligned, and I got a chance to actually pursue what I always wanted to do since childhood. And I prepared along while working, and it worked out. So,
Okay. So now, Madhav, एक perception होता है लोगों में जो IIM, IIT से होते हैं, they have certain kind of advantage. Now, it could be because of their, experience there. So do you feel कि आपको IIM से होने से कुछ ऐसा नॉन यूपीएससी एडवांटेज मिला जिसने यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन में हेल्प किया?
पहला एडवांटेज तो मुझे IIM अहमदाबाद, 2-3 एडवांटेजेस मिले. इनफैक्ट अहमदाबाद का पहला एडवांटेज ये था सर कि इट मेड मी मोर हार्ड वर्किंग इन लाइफ. इट मेड मी बिलीव इन माई सेल्फ कि मैं पढ़ सकता हूँ अगर पढ़ने की ज़रूरत आई 14 घंटे. तो मतलब दैट बिकॉज ऑफ द रिगर एट IIM अहमदाबाद, आई थिंक आई वॉज कम्फर्टेबल डूइंग दैट नाउ अलॉन्ग विद द जॉब. That is one. Second, it helped me in structuring my thoughts. And this is one word that you'll hear a lot of focus in a B school structure. So in structuring my thoughts, how I present myself, how I present my answers and the dimensions and how to approach a question. I think that idea was given by, and that idea was nurtured by IIM Ahmedabad to some extent. So that was the advantage I would say I had.
And definitely, I think hard work is one thing you cannot escape in UPSC preparation or in life, right? So anywhere you have to go, you have to do hard work. And second thing also is structuring. I think यहाँ भी हम लोग आंसर राइटिंग में बहुत बोलते हैं स्ट्रक्चरिंग करो, प्रॉपर स्ट्रक्चरिंग करो. So that is very important. So now Madhav, once you got into your preparation, right? So what was the first thing you did? Because UPSC के preparation में अगर आप सही से start करते हो तो जर्नी में इतना आपको सफ़र नहीं करना पड़ेगा. बट अगर आप गलत स्टार्ट करते हो बिकॉज इतना लंबा साइकिल है, देन यू डू सम मिस्टेक्स देन लर्न, राइट? सो व्हाट वर सम थिंग्स जो आपने शुरुआत में की सो एज टू इंश्योर कि आपकी स्टार्ट सही रहे?
सो स्टार्ट में फॉर स्टार्टर्स आई स्पोक टू अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल, आई रेड अ लॉट. तो रिसर्च आई वुड से मैंने रिसर्च करी कि एग्ज़ाम चाहता क्या है. सो दैट वुड इंक्लूड गूगल सर्च, उस पे जो आर्टिकल्स हैं टॉपर्स आर्टिकल्स. देन अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट टॉकिंग टू अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु हैव बीन एबल टू क्लियर इट एंड हु हैव नॉट बीन एबल टू क्लियर इट. Both kind of people. And apart from that, third thing was the syllabus. मतलब what is the demand of the syllabus and how do they want it, what are they expecting. वो syllabus समझने में ही इस एग्ज़ाम का 1 साल निकल जाता है कि मतलब what is exactly the demand of the syllabus. तो doing these 3 things together and then I started with very basics NCERTs. थोड़ा थोड़ा हल्का हल्का देखा, फिर मुझे लगा ये आसान है, ये इससे मैं थोड़ा एडवांस बुक पे जा सकता हूँ या नहीं जा सकता हूँ. तो NCERTs एंड उसके बाद ग्रेजुअली माय ऑप्शनल एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फॉर्थ.
ओके, सो आई थिंक हम लोग स्पेसिफिक एस्पेक्ट्स पे तो थोड़ी देर बाद में आएंगे. बट लाइक व्हेन यू स्टार्टेड, ओके, सो कभी दिमाग में ऐसा डर नहीं था कि आई मे नॉट मेक इट एंड सम काइंड ऑफ दैट फियर इन योर माइंड? बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ एस्पिरेंट्स हैव दैट फियर एंड वो इवन ड्यूरिंग द प्रिपरेशन रहता है. So how did you manage it? आपको भी रहा होगा कुछ doubts and fears?
ये fear throughout the journey था. मतलब लास्ट स्टेज जिस दिन रिजल्ट आया उस दिन भी आई वॉज वेल प्रिपेयर्ड कि there's a chance कि रिजल्ट की लिस्ट में नाम नहीं होगा. एंड सो दिस फियर गोज ऑन. आई मीन इट फील्स लाइक कि व्हाट आर यू डूइंग इन योर लाइफ. मतलब बीच बीच में लगता है कि जो है कि क्या कर रहे हैं, आई हैव एवरीथिंग, व्हाई एम आई डूइंग दिस. you question, you have those existential crises and you start questioning कि हम क्यों कर रहे हैं. So that fear is a part of the journey. You just have to kind of push it aside and say कि let's keep moving.
Definitely. And इस journey में like you told me that this was your second attempt. So first attempt में you missed it by 3 marks, right? So I think that must be really heartbreaking. So और बहुत सारे aspirants actually इस journey में हैं जो 2, 3, 4 attempt तक दे रहे हैं. So how did you overcome it? How did you get over that and again got into the preparation?
So when I didn't get in through last year and missed by 3 marks, for one, I was not expecting to miss it. So that was a even big shock that I got of my life. So it's just that I went to meet Pratyush again, my mentor, Pratyush Pandey, that day, and he told me, you know what, you have a week to write prelims, or you have a year to write prelims. So you can choose to cry this week and then keep crying for the next 1 year also. So if you cry right now, don't cry right now. Postpone your emotions for a while. Go study for prelims if you can. Write prelims and then worry about that कि result में हुआ नहीं. मैंने कहा ठीक है. Tried that. It was very difficult. तो थोड़ी देर के लिए दिमाग को ब्लॉक करके जैसे तैसे करके prelims पढ़ के फिर से लिखा और फिर जाके मतलब I wrote prelims again and finally I got through this year.
No, definitely, and I think this is what everybody should understand. So इस सिनेरियो में आप देख सकते हो that prelims was I think a week after, right?
Yes.
Just a week after the result, right? And so उतने एक वीक में भी अपने आप को जो भी टाइम है उसमें प्रिपेयर करने के लिए वी सी स्टूडेंट्स जो एक्चुअली जिनका अगर मेंस नहीं होता तो उसके बाद दे हैव एम्पल अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम बट मेनी टाइम दे गेट इनटू दैट डिप्रेशन जोन एंड बहुत समय तक उसी में चले जाता है सो बिकॉज ऑफ विच दे सफ़र अगेन, राइट? सो नाउ कमिंग ऑन टू दी मोर स्पेसिफिक एस्पेक्ट्स, लाइक आपने प्रीलिम्स की बात की. सो फर्स्ट टाइम तो आपने अच्छे से तैयारी से दिया, सेकेंड टाइम आपके पास टाइम नहीं था. सो ओवरऑल आपकी प्रीलिम्स की प्रिपरेशन की स्ट्रैटेजी क्या थी? लाइक व्हाट वर दी की थिंग्स और अप्रोच क्या थी आपके प्रीलिम्स को लेकर?
For prelims, I refer to the standard books that everybody tells you. वही लक्ष्मीकांत, Spectrum and I read those books and I kept my sources very limited. तो अगर कोई मुझे आके बताता था कि बिपिन चंद्रा से क्वेश्चन आया, कोई बात नहीं, मैं बिपिन चंद्रा नहीं देखूंगा, मेरी स्पेक्ट्रम ही बहुत है, होना होगा उससे होगा, नहीं तो नहीं होगा, कोई बात नहीं. तो वेरी लिमिटेड सोर्सेज, दैट इज़ वन. एंड रिवाइजिंग दो सोर्सेज अगेन एंड अगेन. I enrolled for a test series, but I think what was more beneficial than the test series was previous year questions. So I religiously sat down and wrote those tests in 2 hours, and just like an exam, because UPSC का जो actual paper होता है वो different होता है test series से, even the prelim one. और उसमें क्या होता है कि you can actually eliminate and you can see through what the UPSC is expecting. वो similar questions इतना test series repeat नहीं कर पाती हैं. So I would say कि previous year questions helped me a lot. That elimination technique I learned from there because nobody taught me, but वहाँ से देख के समझ में आया कि oh okay, this is a fluke question, you can just get your answer straight away. And one thing also that works during prelims is to keep calm and have some presence of mind. Because people who are writing and clearing prelims उन्होंने बहुत नहीं पढ़ा है, उन्होंने भी उतना ही पढ़ा है जितना सबने पढ़ा है, और उनको भी वो क्वेश्चंस नहीं आते जो सबको नहीं आते. बट इट इज़ जस्ट द प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइंड, द कामनेस की जिसमें कुछ दिख जाता है जिसकी वजह से यू कैन मारो दैट तुक्का. हाँ, एंड दैट तुक्का इज एन एजुकेटेड गेस, आई वुड से, एंड दैट एजुकेशन कम्स थ्रू years of knowledge that people have garnered.
Definitely. And one more thing, I'm curious, like जब आप prepare कर रहे थे during a phase and you were also working at that time, so आपका daily schedule कैसे होता था और कैसे आप time manage करते थे? How were you able to manage time for studies and work?
So initially I was lucky because it was COVID, it was lockdown, work from home, I was living with my family, I was in a city like Mussoorie with less distractions. So that helped. So my schedule was mostly like I would wake up at around 9:30ish or 10 and I'd start working. Then around 6 probably I'll wind up work as much as possible. However, there were times when I used to have late night meetings, so I would attend them. I didn't have a choice. And I would go for a walk for half an hour, come back, and then probably around 9 I used to sit down to prepare. And that is the time when I did a lot of making my notes, collecting resources, just reading things basically for the first time. And this would go on till 3 mostly, almost every day. And weekends I utilized in memorizing and internalizing stuff. So whatever the notes I had prepared, whatever the current affairs I had been doing, so weekends I would try to absorb some of them as much as possible. So the 2 days would go in that.
Okay, and I think so you were working, आप काम भी कर रहे थे और साथ में फिर लेट नाइट तक इतना पढ़ रहे थे, तो डेफिनेटली मतलब कहीं ना कहीं इंटरेस्ट होना चाहिए इस चीज़ को करने के लिए. सो हाउ डिड यू बिल्ड दैट इंटरेस्ट? क्योंकि कई बार होता क्या है कि स्टूडेंट्स का एक मेजर रीज़न वाई दे कुड नॉट पुट इन दी हार्ड वर्क इसकी उनका इंटरेस्ट नहीं बनता. So for you, like how were you able to build that interest in the subjects and all?
So if you start preparing for UPSC, सब्जेक्ट बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग होता है. ठीक है, शुरू में बहुत मज़ा आता है पढ़ने में कि अरे वाह, ये तो मतलब जैसे पॉलिटी में नया नया पता चलता है कि ये सब होता है, हिस्ट्री में पता चलता है. सो इनिशियल 2-3 months आर अ वेरी गुड पीरियड ऑफ UPSC preparation. But when you started repeating all of that again and again, it becomes very tedious. So how I kept myself motivated was more around, I tried to keep focusing on the purpose of why I was doing it, and I knew that if I put in that effort, probably I'll do it. And I just kept reminding myself that again and again. I would just listen to people who have cracked it and hear their strategy, and then try to self motivate myself कि हो सकता है अगर मैं थोड़ा पढ़ लूँ तो. And that is how it went.
Definitely. And I think now by listening about your strategy and your journey, I'm sure a lot of aspirants will get motivated to give that push in their journey. Now coming on to the mains stage, so one thing we always say to our students that be mains ready before 2 or 3 months before prelims. So by what time were you prepared for your mains aspect? Like at least you have read and made some notes about your optional subject and the mains specific topic.
So I started in May of 2020. हल्का हल्का मैंने वो पढ़ा था शुरू में, NCERTs, हल्की हल्की पॉलिटी, then लक्ष्मीकांत, then स्पेक्ट्रम. And in July I started preparing for my optional. 3 months dedicatedly I did optional. और जिसमें कभी कभी वीकेंड्स पे मैं हल्का सा पॉलिटी देख लेता था क्योंकि मुझे पॉलिटी पढ़ने में मज़ा आने लग गया था. एंड फॉर अ चेंज ऑल्सो कि चलो ऑप्शनल के मेरे 12 मॉड्यूल थे, एक मॉड्यूल ख़त्म हो गया तो उसके बाद मैंने थोड़ा सा पॉलिटी या स्पेक्ट्रम पढ़ लिया. और आई थिंक बाई सेप्टेम्बर एंड आई हैड माई नोट्स रेडी फॉर ऑप्शनल एंड पार्क डिसाइड. फिर उसके बाद मैंने प्रीलिम्स पढ़ने के लिए थोड़ा थोड़ा प्रीलिम स्पेसिफिक सब्जेक्ट्स 2 महीने पढ़े. और फिर ब्रेक ले लेके जो छोटे छोटे सब्जेक्ट्स होते हैं ना, जैसे वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री के नोट्स बना लिए, इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी के नोट्स बना लिए. तो दिस इज़ व्हाट आई डिड टिल अराउंड मार्च. और फिर उसके बाद फिर से प्रीलिम्स.
ओके, सो बेसिकली यू केप्ट ऑन मिक्सिंग द सब्जेक्ट सो दैट एक ही सब्जेक्ट ज़्यादा टाइम तक ना पढ़े, सो दैट इट गेट्स बोरिंग, राइट?
इट बिकम्स मोनोटोनस सर, इट बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट ऑल्सो.
And the second aspect for mains is that you have the knowledge but you need to put it on the paper, or when it comes to put it on the paper, answer writing is the skill. So how did you go about answer writing? How did you practice? When did you start practicing for answer writing?
I started practicing for answer writing after clearing prelims. I enrolled for a test series at Forum, and I used to diligently write those papers just like an exam mode, like 3 hours, and dedicatedly after preparing. So people say that बिना पढ़े भी लिखते रहो. नहीं, मेरे साथ ऐसा नहीं होता है. मेरे को पहले पढ़ना है, फिर पढ़ के ही मैं ढंग से लिखता हूँ. तो बट आई मेक श्योर कि अगर मैंने डिसाइड किया कि सैटरडे को ये वाला पेपर लिखना है तो मैं सैटरडे तक सिलेबस ख़त्म करूँगा. सो प्रॉपरली आंसर लिख कर उन्हें इवैल्यूएट कराया, फिर सीखा उनसे कि क्या हो रहा है. शुरू के तो बहुत ख़राब लिखे बिकॉज आई वाज जस्ट पोरिंग इन वॉट एवर आई न्यू रादर देन वॉट द क्वेश्चन वाज आस्किंग. So tried to do that, and eventually I got better and better and better. And I remember last year GS2, GS4 I used to be one of the toppers at Forum IAS because it had improved to that level. So I think answer writing practice is a must.
So I think you talked about mock tests. So mock tests are also important for prelims. So I would like to get back to that. So for prelims, like एक general जो parameter देखते हैं और कई बार toppers बोलते हैं कि number of mock tests. तो आपने कितने number of mock tests दिए थे?
Honestly, I don't measure it by number of mock tests. I measure it by the performance in each mock test. So when I started writing prelims का mock test, मैंने vision का I think mock test लिया था. I used to get शुरू के 2-3 में 50 कुछ आए थे. And it was sectional वालों में ज़्यादा आते हैं जो सिर्फ एक dedicatedly एक subject का होता है. उसमें usually I remember it used to vary from 75 to 95. तो फिर मैं एक बार ऐसा हुआ था कि मैं 77 पे जो नॉर्मल फुल लेंथ टेस्ट होते हैं उन पर अटक गया था. 77 के आसपास ही नंबर आ रहे थे एंड इट वाज नॉट मूविंग. मैंने 3-4 टेस्ट लिखे, सब में इट वाज समवेयर अराउंड 77. सो आई आस्क्ड अगेन माय मेंटर how do I increase it? So I started I prepared specifically for the areas that are asked more in prelims, and then gradually reached 88 and then 98 also.
And I think this is very important point that you highlighted, because this is a real problem that students actually face. So we have also a lot of students who are giving mock test, and if they get less marks in mock test, अगर mock test में कम marks आए वो डर के mock test देना ही छोड़ देते हैं. So that is very important that you should learn from here that even toppers जो होते हैं उनके marks कम आते हैं, but it is that कि उनका approach होता है कि improve करने का mock test से, right? So that approach you should also adopt. So now for answer writing, did you do daily answer writing or just the test series?
Just the test series.
No daily answer writing. Okay. So apart from that, now coming on to the interview aspect. So how was your interview experience and how did things go in the interview?
I have given 2 interviews, and my second interview went way better than the first one, and it was a good interview, very cordial board, had fun in the interview. I mean, I managed to answer almost more or less all questions that were asked, and it was a very cordial and a good experience.
Okay, fair enough. So now after the interview, like what was your, after giving the interview, there is some time gap till the results come, right? So what was your mindset then? Were you again preparing for another attempt, or were you focused on back to your corporate work?
I was working. I mean, I am one of those who wants to see the result to be able to prepare again. So I was waiting for the result. I would have given prelims again, yes, but I was not studying as such.
Okay. And when the day the result came, so can you just give us a go through, because we feel that these things are actually, which if anybody hears, it might act as a motivator for them. So जो लोग देख रहे हैं aspirants, so अगर उनको पता चलेगा कि what a big thing is to get your name in that list, right? So can you tell us that how did that day went?
So this day was, I'll contrast it with last year. So last year also I had been anxious for the past 3-4 days when the result is expected once the interviews are done, and I used to make a huge fuss and cry. But this year I was surprisingly calm, and in fact my family members were also very saying that how are you so calm. It's surprising to see you so calm. So I was calm, but I was anxious within. I mean, it was very difficult to pass time. Every moment seemed like a Herculean task to pass, and eventually I remember it was expected around 1 or something, and somebody told me that it is not coming at 1 and it's coming in the evening, and I had a meeting right between at 1 to 2, and right in between the meeting I started getting calls, and I had told people this year I am not seeing the results, so please call me. And I was hoping that people call me. And I started getting back to back calls, and that gave me a hint that okay fine हो गया है. But वो meeting में मेरा मन ही नहीं लगा, तब फिर मैंने बोलना पड़ गया कि I'm not feeling well, or I have to, I mean I just
Yes.
I'll get back in 5 minutes. And then I picked up a phone from a mentor again at Forum IAS. She told me that you've made it and the rank is 536, and I was so relieved. I mean, that name is there finally. I mean, it just feels when you're not there, when you put in the efforts, like what happened last year, ऐसा लगता है कि जो है what am I doing and why is this happening? Am I doing things right also? होना भी है नहीं होना? You start questioning everything. But then once this happened, I was at least relieved कि चलो ठीक है. हाँ somewhere.
And I think this aspect regarding mental health, so generally also now people, अब जो है लोग थोड़ा सा mental health को लेके conscious हो रहे हैं कि थोड़ा सा हमें mental health पे physical के साथ focus करना चाहिए. And in UPSC your mental health is definitely put under a lot of stress. So were there any things you did to manage your mental health? कुछ ऐसा आपने किया अपनी mental health के लिए, maybe meditation, something like that?
One thing is that I was regular with the jogging in the evening, so I would go out for a jog continuously. And second thing is that once mains was done, I would switch off from the UPSC world completely for a few days. Similarly, once the interview is done, and this year I prepared extensively for the interview. I mean, I did as much effort I had put in for the main, same for interview also. So once interview is done, the next few days are fun, and where there's no talk of UPSC anymore. There's no talk of that Lakshmikant and the GSs anymore. So switching off completely is also helps. I mean, a lot of people, what they do is they're not even having fun properly, and they're half of them are still there. So ये आगे पीछे नहीं करता मैं, मतलब I try to shut one thing out completely.
And I think that is a very good thing. Like everybody should, even during their preparation journeys, time to time have some short breaks so that you take a time to recharge. Now, coming on to the next aspect, you said you cut off from the UPSC world and you had prepared from Missouri, right? So, कभी ऐसा लगा नहीं, never had you had that fear of missing out कि मैं दिल्ली नहीं जा रहा हूँ या all that thing, because Delhi has the hub of the coaching. So, you didn't feel like कि maybe I'm missing out on something important that others are doing, because this is a fear that lot of aspirants have. You know, they get into this thing, okay, maybe I'm missing out on something and all.
No, sir, not at all. I mean, not at all. In fact, I prefer studying at Missouri because of the environment and my comfort space and the fact that I'm living with family. Delhi आके मुझे ये लगता है कि कौन खाने का देखेगा, कौन रहने का देखेगा, वहाँ पे everything is managed well. So I would say not even considered coming to Delhi.
No, definitely, there are definitely costs associated with coming to Delhi. So that are there. So now we would be doing some rapid fire questions.
Sure, sir.
So I think first question, which is very common parlance in UPSC aspirants, कि कितने घंटे पढ़ा आपने डेली बेसिस पे, अगर एवरेज निकालना चाहूँ तो?
Weekdays 5 to 6 hours, weekends 7, 8, 9 hours, and closer to the exam it has also reached 14 and 16 hours.
Yes, so I think many people have that myth ना कि continuous 14 to 15 hours होता है, वो नहीं होता. It's only closer to exam. And prelims or mains, which stage do you feel was tough for you?
Mains. Mains is more demanding.
Definitely, because it has very wide syllabus and all, and you get very less time to prepare for it. So, use of social media during preparation. Did you use social media during preparation?
I did, not 1 or 2 months before the exam.
Your favorite time to study? Already you have told day or night.
Night.
And which was your like favorite subject in general studies, which you felt interesting while studying?
I enjoyed polity and international relations. I was fairly good at ethics also, and I also enjoyed internal security to some extent.
And if you could believe, if you could go back and maybe change one thing about your preparation, because there is always a scope for improvement. So is there something you feel you could have changed?
Honestly, so there's nothing I can recall that I would want to change. I think everything farewelled at the end, and so I would say it went well.
And do you believe in luck, that luck factor is there in UPSC?
It's a big time, so there's a huge luck factor involved. I mean, you don't get to choose who'll check your answer sheet, whether they like your essay, whether the interview board, which board do you get, how do they mark you, you never know. So luck has a huge factor.
So here I would like to have some follow up to it. So like because see, this is the reality of the exam, that luck is there, we have to accept it. But how do we deal with it in our preparation? Like हम अपनी preparation में ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं कि इसको factor को minimize करें, या maybe make this factor work for us?
इसको minimize करने का एक ही तरीका है, increase your main score, so that at least you may not know about the essay, but you know about the GSS. So GSS में तो number आप increase कर सकते हैं. You can increase your number in optional. So like the example I was giving you of a friend who got 18 essay, but he still secured 71 rank. But that is because he did exceptionally well in the other subjects.
Definitely. And since you mentioned about your friend, so here I would like to highlight. So Madhav had a very, from MNIT, and from his, he has a very good peer group. So out of I think 5 people, 4 people have cleared this exam, right? So regarding peer group, Madhav, like how helpful it is, and in what ways can having a peer group, having a friend circle जो लोग UPSC के लिए prepare करें help कर सकता है?
So it depends from person to person and peer group to peer group. I mean, if your peer group is totally only there to do bakar, then keep it just to that. But if at the same point of time अगर आपका peer group जैसा ये वाला था, तो मतलब they kind of show, मतलब वो help करते हैं, they find those blind spots. There are certain things that they may do and you are not doing, and which may help you to some extent, some value add. मुझे बहुत चीज़ें तो इन लोगों से पता चली कि अच्छा ये भी होता है, ये भी source है. So all of that I didn't know.
So can you specify some specific things कि जो आप लोग peer group में करते थे, maybe which was helpful in preparation?
We used to check each other's copies. I mean, we used to do that a lot.
So next is that if not UPSC, then what?
My corporate career, or probably a startup.
And now one word that would describe your journey to becoming UPSC topper.
So perseverance.
Definitely. I think perseverance is very important in this exam. And the most surprising question that you had encountered in your interview?
So I like to watch Bollywood movies, and one of the members asked me that I had written specifically latest Bollywood movies because I didn't want them to get into the old ones because I don't watch them obviously. So he asked me that why do you only watch the latest Bollywood movies, and isn't it said that that the golden age was the old
Yes.
period and those were the movies, and this is that the content that come here is nothing compared to that golden age. And I remember I answered that some people who say that it was the golden age has an element of nostalgia attached because they call it a golden age because it was their golden age. And the board laughed at this. And I said that it's all relative and the taste and preferences change. 25 years from now, this would be the golden age for us.
So I think for interview one should always see that you have to be able to put your point across in a polite and proper manner.
Yes, sir.
So that is there. So now do you know any book that you had read outside the syllabus which helped you in preparation? So any book that was not for UPSC but you read it and it helped in your preparation?
So not really.
Okay, so from here the learning is that do not go out of the syllabus. And the best advice that you had received during your preparation, which you felt was, it's like जैसे आप कहीं रास्ते में जा रहे हो और कोई आपको सही रास्ता बता दे.
So the best advice I received was again from my mentor Pratyush Pandey. He said that whenever you're studying something, you're short on time. So do the cost benefit analysis. So keep your limited resources very limited. और देखो कि अगर आर्ट एंड कल्चर पे 15 दिन दे रहे हो तो वो वर्थ इट है या नहीं है. सो अगर उसके कितने क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं, अगर एक ही क्वेश्चन आ रहा है तो इट डजंट डिजर्व 15 days. You might as well skip it.
So I think this is also a crucial aspect of preparation, having a cost benefit analysis or input output ratio. And lastly, any distractions you faced in your preparation and how you dealt with that?
So the distractions were social media, and the peer group also to some extent. I mean, everybody is doing so well that even you get distracted that okay fine. I mean, people are getting married, people are getting posted, people are moving abroad, and you're stuck here doing a preparation which may or may not lead you somewhere. So social media was a big distraction during my preparation.
So any last closing tips for aspirants who are preparing for this exam, that this is what one or two important things they should always keep in mind या हमेशा focus में रखनी चाहिए जब preparation कर रहे हैं?
So this is based out of my personal experience also, that one should keep a deadline. That since this exam demands the prime of their youth in which careers are made, one should keep a deadline that probably 3 attempts, 3 dedicated attempts, और उसमें अगर नहीं हो रहा है तो there is no fear of failure. You haven't failed. I mean, you tried and not everybody will make it. So keeping a deadline, I had kept a deadline of 3 attempts for myself. अगर उसमें नहीं होता तो I would have moved out of this vicious cycle of UPSC because it becomes haunting for the rest of your lives also to some extent. So I would say that there is grace and there is strength in saying that okay fine, I cannot do this anymore. And one should totally have the courage to do it and not fall prey to
the peer pressures. So I think with this let's wrap it up, and thank you Madhav, and I am sure our conversation, those who are preparing, जो लोग prepare कर रहे हैं, if they listen to it तो definitely उनको कुछ ना कुछ inspiration and apart from inspiration कुछ practical points भी मिलेंगे जो वो अपनी preparation में implement कर पाएंगे. So thank you Madhav for sharing your valuable insights.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you so much.